Let's expand on that theme of the Auditor General's outcomes. We speak to Managing Director at Municipal IQ, Allan. Kevin, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And so the Deputy Coctum Minister speaks of a rethink of some sort that is needed. However, the Auditor General says municipalities are still failing to meet their targets and are lying about it. What's your assessment of the latest results?
Thanks, Duduzile. Great to be with you. I would go with the Auditor General. I mean, the Auditor General is speaking a lot of truth to power at the moment, and her report this year is very hard-hitting. And one of the things she makes clear about, and it's one of her central findings or concerns, is that the capacity issue in local government amongst municipalities is a crisis. I mean, it's been a crisis for very many years, more than a decade. It's been a problem since democracy, but it's been a very clear crisis for more than a decade. And until we think carefully and very seriously about the capacity issue, our municipalities are going to continue to be under a lot of pressure, and many of them are going to continue to fail, and many more are going to fail.
It would appear that the cost does not justify the output, because according to the Auditor General, KwaZulu-Natal spent the most on consultants, with 48 municipalities raking up a bill of 300 or over 309 million rand. And so when you take a look at this, what does it tell you?
Well, if you don't have capacity internally, you've got to outsource. That's just a fact of life. And the auditing process is technical. It's part of financial reporting, and you can't, if you don't have an appropriate qualified set of staff members to do auditing, well, what can you do but outsource it to financial experts? This is very expensive. It's very expensive to bring in, an auditing firm, and that's just a fact of life. But the beginning of that issue is that the capacity does not exist in very many municipalities, and that is highly problematic. And believe me, there are people being paid in these municipalities to be involved in the audit function. They cannot do their job. So these municipalities are actually paying twice for this function, which is ridiculous. And until we actually address the capacity crisis internally and not outsource, we're just going to have to keep paying for consultants. And the Auditor General, I mean, you have that. That's the first problem. And then the second problem is the Auditor General really questions the value of consultants. Now, the problem there is the consultants that are being used, some of them are being appointed on a questionable basis because the procurement processes are compromised in many municipalities. And, just generally, there may not be corruption, but fully qualified external auditors are appointed to help you with the auditing process, and they don't really improve the process. This is not news. I mean, the Auditor General is just confirming that it's happening again this year, but this has been the case for very many years as well, and it's just not being addressed.
And that's just it. There's nothing new here. The Auditor General also noting that poor financial planning and inadequate financial controls, as well as reporting, still plagued municipalities, which remained in crisis on service delivery and the ability to spend taxpayers' money responsibly. What does this tell you?
Yes. So basically what auditing is accounting for the money that you spend. So all the Auditor General is saying is, you have a responsibility to the public to spend public money responsibly. I want to know what you spent it on in detail. That's all that auditing is. And municipalities, they do this very poorly. And their financial planning in many municipalities is very, very questionable. They spend on the wrong things. One of the alarming things that the Auditor General pointed out in terms of financial planning is that there is a trend in municipalities to overspend on salaries for staff and underspend on infrastructure. So as residents of municipalities, we are seeing that our money is being spent on often a bloated staff complement, which municipalities are refusing to face up to, and our money is not being spent on the things we need, like infrastructure, like roads, or in Hammanskraal at the moment, refurbishment of an essential water plant, the collapse of which has resulted in a cholera outbreak in Tshwane.
And with that, you rightfully mentioned that there's nothing new here. Do we then keep it moving? Have we become numb to what is happening in the country for the next decade? Are we still going to be talking about the same thing? I guess I ask essentially in trying to provide a solution, what genuinely needs to happen, which is a question we've been asking each and every single time an audit outcome comes out.
So, yeah, that's all absolutely right, and I agree with all of that. Until you make some major changes, you are just going to keep getting the same terrible audit outcomes. You know, clean audits reduced this year from 16% 2 years ago to 14.5% at the last financial cycle in the end of last year. So they've gone down from a really paltry total to an even more paltry total. Now, if we don't change anything, the same things are just going to happen. We need major changes in local government. And the first of those, and the Auditor General points this out as a major problem as well, is making our local leaders accountable for their actions. There is zero accountability. We've been talking about accountability forever in local government. You cannot have a situation where a municipality is failing to do its basic audit function, and it's getting an audit disclaimer, or it's not putting in its audit report, so the audit is outstanding, and yet no one is held accountable for that. Provincial government has a role here as well. Provincial government is supposed to be regulating the activities of municipalities. Free State and Northwest, not one clean audit this year. That is a disgrace. What are the provincial MECs in the Free State and Northwest doing? Why are they not holding these municipalities accountable?
Kevin, before we let you go, maybe let's give and condemn reasonably a shout out to those who did manage to get clean audits.
Yeah, so I mean, no clean audits in the Free State or in Northwest, but half of the clean audits for the entire country. It is a very small amount, but nonetheless, half of them are coming from the Western Cape. Now, the Western Cape is doing a lot of things right. Their financial planning, their financial management, and their financial oversight by the Western Cape provincial government is all going well. At Municipal IQ, we are an objective, non-political organization. This is not a political statement, but the Western Cape is doing things that other provinces can emulate. And the bottom line is that their financial planning, financial management, part of which is the audit function, is all going well. We need to learn from them, and we need to emulate them in the provinces where auditing is failing.
Managing Director at Municipal IQ, Kevin Allan, thank you very much for your time.